Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to our webinar. It looks like we still have a few people that are entering. So we're just going to wait just a couple more seconds before we get started here. Seems like we have a lot of people attending today. All right, it seems like almost everyone's here, so let's get started. First of all, I wanted to thank everyone for coming to our webinar. My name is Sarah, and I'm a Zillow Rentals Marketing Coordinator. Today, we're going to present an issue that many real estate agents and brokerages face: the reluctance to work with rentals. Presenting today, we're so fortunate to have Greg Young, who's the president of Broker Heaven New York. Today, he's going to be presenting the case for rentals, why real estate agents and brokerages should do rentals. Following his presentation, we're going to give you the chance to ask him a few questions, so save your questions, write them down. We're going to give you the chance to ask them later. And also, if you don't catch everything, we're also going to be recording this webinar and we're going to be posting it on the blog. So don't worry if you don't catch everything the first time. This presentation is full of lots of information. So without further ado, I am going to hand everything over to Greg. So go ahead and take it away, Greg.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for tuning in. My name is Greg Young. I'm speaking to you from Broker Heaven, our training and consulting facility on Park Avenue in Manhattan. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about me. I got my real estate license in 1982. When I was 21 years old, I came to New York in 1984 after selling houses upstate for a couple years. I've been in management since 1987, and my title from 1988 until 2010, I was the director of sales for 3 different firms. I've created numerous rental and sales training programs. Helping agents build their career and make money is my passion. If you'd like more information about me, check out our website, brokerheavenny.com. Today's presentation is the case for rentals, why real estate agents and brokerages should do rentals. Okay, I'm going to show you a few different slides. The first one is titled Startup Capital. And as I go through the presentation, I'm going to try to give you a few pros on each topic, why it's good for a brokerage and an individual agent to do rentals. Okay, so money is important. We all know that in business. Let's start out with some reasons for brokerages. A individual that wants to start a real estate brokerage needs a lot less money to start up a company that's going to do rentals initially. All right, it's just a fact. The money comes in a lot sooner. I work with a lot of startups here in the New York City area, and I've seen a couple new firms starting in rentals turn a profit in literally their second month. Now, you know, that's a huge difference and a lot of capital in the difference between starting a sales operation, because it's not unusual for a sales operation not to be covering their expenses for almost a year. So ease of entry into the business, if you're going to start a company, a brokerage business, you're really, really crazy, in my view, not to take advantage of the rental market in your area. Now, one of the keys to building a company, you have to be able to hire. Hiring is very, very, very important. Once you're established, you've built your brand, you're going to be able to attract people. But initially, in the beginning, it is going to be much, much easier to hire and fill your desks and build your company if you're offering rentals. There were years and years and years as the director of sales for companies when I did not have the ability to tell someone sitting in front of me that they could do rentals until their first sales closed. All right. And then when I had the advantage of being in a situation where I could say, hey, if you don't have 6 months or a year's living expenses saved, don't worry about it, because you're going to be able to make money almost in your first month if you're doing rentals. So it's much easier, much easier to hire when you can offer people the ability to rent some apartments initially. I think anybody that's been in management for a while has had a really good candidate sitting in front of them that they wanted to hire, but they were concerned that they didn't have enough money to last until they got the listings and the property sold. It takes a long time, as everybody knows. So what you end up doing is having people, juggling two careers, people moonlighting and trying to start out part-time. And we all know that real estate's very, very difficult part-time. So I have a solution, and it works beautifully for me and the people that I consult for. And you want to be a top sales agent and you don't have a lot of savings, well, make renting property your part-time job that's paying your bills so you can last while you grow into sales. It's to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a tremendous advantage. Okay, we're going to look at a few reasons for agents specifically. Ease of entry. Okay, very few people who in this economy, has time to live for half or a full year without making money. If you start out as an agent, you have the ability to rent property, you might not be making your whole monthly nut in the beginning, but at least you're making some money. You're making some money. And that is huge when you're making a decision to get into this business. So I talk to new people all the time, and to be quite blunt, I recommend to almost everyone, unless they have a huge social sphere of influence, that they are far better off starting in rentals and making some money and transitioning over time to sell more and more. I have found success rate with new people is much, much higher starting in rentals. They're making a little bit of money. Obviously, they're meeting people. They're out there doing transactions. They feel better about themselves. Anyone that's hired agents to go straight into sales and tried to manage them has watched the agony that they go through trying to build their business. And flat out, some of them just can't stick with it long enough, either for financial reasons or because of the emotional stress and wear and tear. When your whole family and your friends, did you do a deal yet? Did you do a deal yet? Are you getting paid? Well, no, but the good things are happening. I'm doing this and that. But all anybody wants to know is, have you made any money yet? And when you can turn around, yeah, I rented an apartment last week. Yeah, I rented a house last week. I'm not making much, but at least they say, you're making progress. If you're younger, I started in this business when I was 21. I'm selling houses in Ithaca, New York. Then I came to New York and I was a sales agent. I was 24 years old. It is extremely difficult, no matter how good you are, for people of means to really take you seriously. If they're buying $1 million property or a $2 million property, they really don't want a really young agent. I wish that wasn't the case, but I found it to be true for myself and over again in the people I see. If you're a younger agent thinking about getting into the business, it makes a lot of sense for you to start out renting. Most of your peers are renting. They don't have down payments to buy yet. You're doing business with them. You're gaining connections, and it's just better all around in so many ways. So startup capital, it's better for the brokerage and it's better for the individual agent. Cash flow. Anybody ever have problems with cash flow? I think all of us do in this economy. For the brokerage, your cash flow is going to be better if you're doing some rentals. It just makes sense. Even if you don't have a large rental business, if you're doing a handful of rental deals a month, it's going to even out your cash flow a little bit. You know, so you're going to have more consistent monthly revenue, and if you build it up to the point, it could be substantial revenue and very profitable. So consistent cash flow, all right, money coming in every month. We all know that the sales business can be seasonal, more so depending on what market you're in, but rentals kind of always happen. There's always somebody that needs a place to live. You know, I've seen companies that have lots and lots of money coming in. When's it coming in? 2, 3, 4 months later when the sales close. Meanwhile, your bills come every month. Why not have your people rent some apartments and even out your cash flow? In different parts of the country, the business has different seasons. I guess across the country, in sales, there's a fall season for the most part, and then a bigger spring season. Here in New York, and I think in many parts of the country, the rental peak season is kind of the opposite of the sales peak season. So you're going to have less seasonality in your agent's income and in your cash flow if you can take advantage. For instance, here in New York, the summer's the peak of the rental season, maybe the same in other cities. And a lot of the people of means that buy and sell property are away on vacation. So you have a lot of students, etc. Why not take advantage of that? You know, you're going to get more revenue, all right? You're going to even out your cash flow, and you're going to keep your agents busier year-round. Next, just plain more production. More production is a good thing if you own a business. You know, you don't have to go to B school to know that having multiple streams of revenue are a good thing, all right? Why not have revenue coming in from both rentals and sales? It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for your people. As far as an individual agent for cash flow, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. I have a saying that I say all the time here to agents in New York: rentals pays your rent, sales buys your home. Okay? You rent enough apartments every month to pay your bills and keep on chugging. And the sales come when they come. You can't control it. You can only control your actions. But the rental business, if you work it, will reward you with consistent income, and you'll be able to pay your bills. Now, one of the common denominators for agents that do really well as agents, they have the ability to last long enough until they build up their business and they build up their connections. You know, when I deal with new agents, you know, they get all excited. I'm giving a presentation, and I like to slow them down and say, hey, I want you to get rich. I want you to be a top agent. But first, we have to learn how to survive. We have to learn how to pay our bills every month while we build our business. And, you know, you are much more likely to survive if you have the ability to rent a few apartments every month to pay your bills. So, rentals pays your rent, sales buy your home. It's been one of my favorite sayings for a long time, and I use it almost every day. There are also really good agents in sales that go into droughts. This is not unusual. No matter how good you are and how big your business, you're going to have that bad quarter, or God forbid that bad year, where you're dipping into your savings and you're hitting your credit cards and your credit lines, and the sales just aren't happening. We saw a lot of this after the financial crisis in the fall of '08. It got to be such a common theme for me, and I was talking about it so much with the one-on-ones that I did with agents that I actually wrote a story about it. It's titled Bob. And Bob is an agent that had been very, very good in rentals. That's how he started out his career. And after a while, he transitioned into sales, and he was making a lot of money. And he learned to love the sales, and he didn't like the rentals so much, so he kind of put it down. And then when he had a horrible year and his life and his business are operating at a deficit, he's sitting in front of me, virtually in tears, distraught and depressed. And I suggest to him, why don't you rent some apartments and pay your bills? You know how. And his response is, Greg, I hate rentals. And I said, well, do you have bills? And he says, you're killing me. And I said, well, you have the ability to dig yourself out of this hole and survive until your sales start to happen again. So the rental business, done right, can make an agent economy-proof. There are ups and downs in our economy in different areas of the country. There certainly are here in New York. For a rental brokerage or for a brokerage or for an individual real estate agent, the rental business can kind of be your safety net to get you through the ups and downs of the economy. It makes an awful lot of sense, and some agents, don't want to set their ego aside and work for smaller fees, but it's really not in their best interest. Okay, so cash flow, there are an awful lot of advantages. I'm just scratching the surface here with today's presentation. Sphere of influence. We've all heard the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. All right? We know that the more people of means that we know, the bigger our sphere of influence, the more people we know, the better off we are. If you are going to be a top agent selling property, a top real estate agent, you need to know a lot of people. And you're better off the more money, the more financial means that those people that the better the better off they are financially, the more expensive the properties they're going to buy and sell, and the more money you make. Now, another one of my mottos, I teach rent pays your bills, rentals pays your bills, and you also meet people. Okay? Now, who do you meet? The people that are renting are generally younger, just getting started out in life, just getting started in their career. The very simple but incredibly effective business plan that I teach here in New York is rent enough properties to pay your bills. You're meeting young, upwardly mobile professionals, impress them, do a great job, and stay in touch with them. All right? You need a methodology for meeting people. Why not the rental business? You get paid as you make more and more connections. Doing rentals constantly grows your sphere of influence. And as you stay in touch with these young, upwardly mobile people, they climb the food chain of the financial world. They make more and more money, grow in their lives and careers. You stay in touch with them. You grow right along with them. This is common in any industry. Somebody gets out of law school, starts a law practice. Who's going to hiring the young lawyer that they haven't met someone they like yet? And the lawyer meets lots and lots of these people and just kind of stays in touch with them. And as they grow in life and then have more and more legal needs, the lawyer does better and better. It's very similar. It makes a lot of sense. I've been teaching it in New York for years. I don't see why it wouldn't work anywhere else in the country. It's a beautiful business plan. Your rentals grows your sphere of influence while you make a living. You stay in touch with everybody. And, I've kind of coined the term here in New York. We call it the hybrid agent. That's the moniker for the system that I teach. And, I think it applies to any market, anywhere. You just stay in touch with all these people you meet in rentals, and what's going to happen? Repeat business. They're going to come back to you and rent other property, and then they're going to come back and possibly buy property. And you're going to get more and more referrals, and by building your rental business is going to grow your sales for the future. The renters you meet in the first couple years become your buyers of the future. It's a foolproof business plan. I absolutely love it. I've had an awful lot of success with it, and frankly, I think everybody ought to be doing it. Now, for the brokerage sphere of influence, the more active your agents are, the better it is for you and your brokerage, okay? You got more signs on houses, you've got more ads on the internet or the newspaper or whatever it is, you've got more exposure, you've got more branding, you've got more activity, you've got more word of mouth. Your brokerage's sphere of influence is going to grow along with the activity level of your agents. So you got to love them being more involved in rentals. Servicing existing contacts and connections. Now, from a brokerage standpoint, I think you want to be full service. If you're not full service, people really aren't going to take you seriously. I was sitting with the owner of, this is actually the opposite of what we're talking about, but I was sitting with the owner of a rental company a couple weeks ago, and she had come to my sales training program, and she was complaining, I've got a relative that wants to buy, and I don't even know how to help them. Now, how crazy is that? You're a real estate broker focused on only one end of the business, and you can't even service a family member. You're going to run into people, connections that have a house they want rented. What are you going to say? You don't do rentals? You're going to meet a big-time developer that wants to do a rental project or buying a rental building. What are you going to say? I don't handle rentals, have somebody else do it? You don't want to give up that business. You don't want to give up that connection. You want to take advantage of it. You want to capture every opportunity in business to maximize your potential. So you need to be able to service your connections, and you need to be full service as a brokerage. For agents, you want to be a real estate professional, all right? Not just a sales agent. You're a real estate professional. What's your job description? To me, should be, I find people great places to live. Whether they want to rent or buy doesn't matter. That's just good business. It's short-sighted to only think, I only want to do sales because rental commissions aren't big enough. What you want is healthy relationships with human beings that like and trust you, think you're a fabulous real estate agent. It shouldn't be the amount of money that you make. I run into this all the time. Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to make enough money. It's not worth my time. And that's short-sighted, all right? What you want are relationships. That's what it's all about. Now, if you're active in the rental business as a brokerage, good things are going to happen. You're going to be out there talking to people, companies, corporations, managing agents. You're going to be trying to build up your rental inventory for your agents. You're going to be meeting a lot of people of means, decision makers with companies that have a lot of money. You're out there and you're talking to people and companies that already own property. People that already own property, companies that own property, what do? They buy more property, all right? You don't know who you're going to meet, what relationship you're going to make to, an individual investor or a corporation that owns one rental building, in your town, in your territory, wants to buy another. Many of us, as we get into management, we want to scale back on the amount of individual business we're doing, but almost all of us are still going to want to do those very sizable transactions. And when you're meeting these contacts, these are high-value contacts, all right, with lots of potential. And just out there talking to the people, good things are going to happen. It's luck is the residue of design, Branch Rickey, one of my favorite quotes. When you're out there and you're in motion and meeting people, good things are going to happen to you. So it's very helpful for you to be active creating rental inventory for your agents. Now, as an agent, doing a good job gets you in the door. You know, you rent a property for a landlord that had trouble filling the vacancy, and all of a sudden they want to give you more vacancies. You know, you become their go-to person. I see this happen all the time. Next thing you know, you've got a whole building, and then you've got a whole account, then you've got a whole complex. You know, renting and meeting people and doing a good job, you get lucky. It's just what happens. And if you're dealing with an individual investor, you know, you sell somebody the property, you've got to service it, you want to get it rented from them. Maybe they want to rent, they want to buy more property, maybe they want to sell property through you. You rent an apartment from an investor you never met. Now you've met the investor. All of a sudden, you find out he owns 28 homes in your area. He wants to sell some. He wants to buy more. He wants you to rent more. You can't just ignore half the business and reach your potential. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, Sarah, do we have any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Greg. That was an awesome presentation. So right now we're going to take a few minutes, and we only have a couple of minutes left. So you can see in your GoToWebinar control panel on the right where you can enter in some questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer all of them, so we'll only take a couple. So go ahead. All right, so the first question, Greg, is what are some of the biggest problems for agents doing rentals?
You know, there are two sides to the rental business, much as there is in sales. There's the property-oriented rental, and then there's working the client or customer, all right? Now, if you have a property that you have to rent, a big mistake would be to just keep showing it and advertising it until it rents, much as short-sighted sales agents do. They have an exclusive, they just keep holding open houses until someone buys it. You have to capture the potential in business. Everyone that wants to rent that property is probably going to live in your town somewhere. Why not learn to work with them and take them around? And then on the other side, agents that work with the clients or customers, we call them the rental people clients here in New York because they're the ones that pay us the majority of the time. The biggest problems there are just not showing enough property, okay? Running an ad, showing 2 or 3 properties, saying which one do you want. People need to see enough property so that they feel like they're making an informed decision, all right? Here in New York, the average person's going to see 15 properties on average before they sign a lease. You got to just show property. Not showing enough property and not taking enough people out are the two biggest mistakes that agents who aren't reaching their potential make in rentals.
Awesome. We're running out of time really quickly, so we're just going to take one more. The next question is, how do I get listings?
Well, I think you should sign up with Zillow Rentals because they have a fantastic service and they're going to give you a lot of the tools that you need. And then you need to get out there in your town or city and start paying attention. Look at the signs. Who has an apartment for rent? Who has a house for rent? Where's the rental building? Who manages it? Who fills their vacancies? You just need to get out there and start doing it, and it'll happen pretty easily.
All right, that's all the questions that we're going to be able to take for now. If you want to send in your questions, we're going to have a slide that has contact information where you can ask either Greg or me. So you can go ahead and send it over there. So go ahead, Greg.
Okay. Here's a picture of our training facility on Park Avenue in Manhattan. If you're in the New York area, we have 3 different training programs: rentals, marketing, and sales training. We also have seminars quite frequently. If you're not in the New York area and you'd like to know more about what I teach, we have a lot of online product. We have 12 different seminars. And if you're interested in the rental business, I highly recommend our seminar. It's titled Rentals 101. You can access it off our website. It's only $9.95, so you can get an awful lot of value for less than $10. Learn more and earn more is our motto. If you're interested in knowing more about me or you'd like to access some of the free training that we give away on my website, there's my web address. If you'd like to talk to me specifically, shoot me an email. I'd be glad to talk to you, answer any questions that you have. I'll do everything I can to help you. That's how I'm wired. I'd like to thank Zillow Rentals and Sarah for asking me to do this, and now I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Greg. All right, thanks everybody for attending our webinar and taking 30 minutes out of your day to join us. For more great marketing resources, you can visit one of our resources page, or you can visit our blog. And Greg actually guest posts every Monday. It's called the G Money System, and he has this great series going, and tons of people love reading it. And if you're also interested in learning more about how to get into rentals, we actually have a really good ebook called Everything You Need to Start a Rental Division, which is basically what it says. It tells you exactly where rentals are going, and it tells you how to get started in rentals. If you guys have any feedback, feel free to shoot us an email at summer@zillow.com. And here's a little secret. Summer is one of our dogs here at the office, but it actually goes to me. So and if you want constant updates on some of the new marketing materials that we're creating, you can follow us on our Twitter and Facebook account. That's where we post our latest materials, and it's a great way to stay on top of what we're publishing constantly. And again, we're going to be posting a recording of this webinar on our blog. So we'll be posting that sometime next week. So look out for that. Thanks for everyone for attending. I appreciate you guys all showing up, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you. Bye, everyone.